Good evening, and welcome to another installment of Stories from the Internet, where I bring you the creepiest real-life stories from all over. For a continual supply of creepiness, hit that subscribe button and the bell icon so you never miss a future episode. Sit back, hit the lights, and let's begin. Quite often when I'm researching Reddit for stories, I'll stick to one subreddit as a theme. I'm finding that very limiting, so tonight we're going to look at 5 different stories from 4 different subreddits. They're each fairly short, but are all equally scary in their own way. After reading many posts on this sub, I decided to post a dream that I had that has stuck with me prominently since it happened. Sorry for any mistakes. I'm posting this from mobile. About 2 years ago, I had a dream where I and my friend, I'll call him John, were at an old abandoned barn, seemingly in the middle of nowhere. We were on the outside of the barn, just talking, when dusk started to set in. So I told John that I had to be going, or I'd be late. I started down the path that led around the barn to wherever I knew I had to be going. I remember it just being a simple dirt path with a simple wooden fence running along the left-hand side of it, leading into a wood line about 100 to 200 yards away. As I turned the path around the barn, I look up and notice a humanoid figure in the middle of the path about 20 yards away. Naturally, I was startled, so I turned to John. For some reason, he had been following me. I hadn't questioned it, to ask if he saw it too, but he was gone. I turned back and the figure stood in the same spot. So, for some reason, I continued along until I got about 5 to 10 feet from it and was able to suddenly make out its features. The moment I looked upon the figure up close, I recognized it immediately as Death, the Grim Reaper. But it was unlike any iteration I had ever seen or have seen since. It had your typical dark, hooded robe, but its skull-like face shimmered like an emerald in sunlight, with 2 small red orbs in its eye sockets. The part that I remember disturbing me the most was his friendly smile that stretched from ear to ear. His mouth and teeth were like a bottomless pit of darkness, and his teeth resembled that of a shark. The part that I think really caught me off guard was when he spoke. He had what I remember being a surprisingly normal voice, though it was actually fairly pleasant to listen to. His words are the main thing that still puzzle me, because I felt like there is some meaning in them. After making eye contact and smiling, he told me, "You're a day late for judgment," and that's when I woke up. It's the only dream in my life that I remembered that vividly when I woke up, and the only dream or thought that I've ever been compelled to write down. I still carry that page folded up in my wallet. Does anyone have any theories what this might mean, if anything? I told my friend that was in the dream, and he thinks it's connected to the time when I was around 14 and drowned in the reservoir, but was pulled out by my brother and came back. The last thing I remember from drowning was letting go and a peace coming over me before I blacked out, and then nothingness before I woke on the boat with my brother over me. My brother estimated I had been underwater for at least a few minutes before he managed to get to me. Maybe I was supposed to have died then and didn't. Maybe that's why I'm late for judgment. Whatever the reason, I'm interested to hear what anyone thinks. Dreams are often difficult to interpret, as they rarely hold any meaning. I like this vision of the Reaper. Why should the Reaper be evil looking and sounding? I'm not sure what his words meant, if anything at all, but I am curious as to what you guys think. Let me know in the comment section down below. This happened around 2003. This was during the landline phone era. My mum was really into paranormal stuff, ghosts, orbs, recordings. She even got into crystals and tarot cards for a while after this. It was just for fun, and nothing too serious. While all the kids were at school, she was alone doing her spooky ghost stuff and decided to cleanse every room in the house just to get rid of anything that could have possibly been invited in. Shortly after, she got a call from an annoyed older lady telling her that a child from our house was calling her, reciting the Lord's Prayer. I laugh now because it makes me think of something out of Children of the Corn. Neither me, my siblings, or any random kids were home. But we weren't a religious family and wouldn't have the Lord's Prayer memorised for any reason. My mum basically laughed it off, thought it was weird, and told her no one called her number. Not too long after, the lady called again, complaining about said child calling her, doing it once again. My mum hung up and nothing else ever happened afterwards. To this day, her story has stayed the same. I usually just shrug and pass it off as something wonky happening with the telephone lines, or interference, because landlines were weird. I don't know if telemarketing was that advanced back then. I've never received any sort of religious calls from a church. Whatever it was, the timing definitely made it creepy. The timing certainly did make it creepy. I'm going to go with a couple of options here. The first, and most obvious, is cross lines, as landline phones were notorious for that happening. The second could be that the old lady herself was a child playing a prank, as they would have known what our poster's mum was up to. My third theory is that the old lady may have just been a bit senile. What do you guys think? I never thought I'd post another story in here, but here we are. As I've mentioned in my last post, I am an insomniac. 2 weeks ago, I felt I would not be able to go to sleep, so I decided to go and take a walk to relax a bit. It was around 12:30 PM. Considering that I am a 6'2", 250-pound man in decent shape, I never felt scared to walk at night, thinking that people would be more scared to see me than the opposite. But around 10 minutes into my walk, I got a chill in my spine. Something was not right. I glanced around me and noticed someone on the other side of the street wearing a hoodie and walking. I tried to shake it off, telling myself it's just another insomniac maybe. But the chill would not go away. Something was off with this guy. I started walking faster and decided I would cut my walk short and go back home. But the guy kept up pace. He even started to walk faster than me. At that point, I was sweating like crazy, but I went faster. 2 minutes had passed, and I turned my head again to get a better look at the guy. That's when I noticed someone else catching up on my side of the road, also wearing a hoodie. My brain went into panic mode, and I started running as fast as I could. Soon after, I heard their footsteps catching up. At that point, I was near my house, so I knew the layout by heart. I jumped over a bike rack and went down into a dirt trail that went into a small forest near my house. I know, looking back, the forest was not the safest choice. At that point, I knew they were still following me, but were not right on my tail since there was a delay before they hit the dirt path. My lungs were on fire and I did not care. I went into the forest, running through the trees in a small path that led to one of my neighbours' backyards. I ran up to the other side of my street, to my house, turned the corner, went through the bushes around my house and entered using my back door. With my whole body on fire by that point, I peeked through my window and saw them run past my house. I was safe, but I saw something that made my body go into a burning to freezing in a split second. Both of them had knives. I do not know if it was because of the running or because of the fear, probably both, but I threw up. So to whoever were those guys, let's not meet. Stories like this go to show that size accounts for very little when criminals have the numbers. I do hope our poster did not feel ashamed about throwing up. I know I would have. I finally found the right place for this story. I think about it every day, and I'm so grateful for the universe on this one. So growing up, my mum had a partner, not my dad, and they were together for 6 years, meaning that this person brought me up from the age of 3 to 9. Dad's still in the picture, but we didn't live together. Life happened, and they went their separate ways. I often thought of this person, but sadly never made contact. Anyway, 2 Christmases ago, this person popped up as people you may know on my mum's Facebook. So she added her on Facebook, and they had a few casual back and forths. About a week later, my mum had to vacate her premises for a month, with about an hour's notice. So she contacted her ex, and ended up going to stay with her for a little while. Mum called me the morning after she arrived there, and told me where she was, and would I go over for dinner. Anyway, I went, and we had a lovely time reminiscing. She was still living in the house I grew up in, so it was bizarre to be there with both of them. I felt like I'd gone back in time. A week later, I had a huge hemorrhage and found out that I was pregnant with my son. After the blood loss, they told me that he was a total miracle to have survived. Broke the news to the family, and Kim, the ex, started knitting for him before he was born. My partner, myself, and my mum went around for dinner again, and we had such a great night. I vowed I'd start visiting Kim every week, and she would be a grandmother figure to my son, no matter what. We hugged and kissed and said goodbye. I was expressing to everyone how odd it felt being back there, in a nice way, but how right it felt that we had all been together in that house and how nothing had changed. My mum moved back to her place, and I got a message from her son at 1 a.m. a few days later to say that Kim had suddenly passed away from a heart attack. FYI, she was otherwise healthy, so totally out of the blue. It really felt as if the universe had brought us back together after 17 years to let us eat as a family and share my wonderful life-changing news with her before she passed away. So I thank whoever, whatever force put us around that dinner table that night, as I now have wonderful memories of a wonderful person, and I feel that I have no regrets. I also feel like her soul will be able to rest too. TLDR, Mum randomly contacts her ex, we all get together for a meal after 17 years, and then she passes away unexpectedly. TLDR, Mum randomly contacts her ex, we all get together for a meal after 17 years, and then she passes away unexpectedly. So I posted this a few days ago in a different thread, and figured I'd post it here. So I just moved into an older house in a rural area in Washington, and have had some strange things happen. I've seen and had paranormal things happen around me a lot when I was younger, and my whole family has experienced them too, so it's nothing new to me. But some of the stuff that has happened here is just weird. So this house was built in 1946 and started its life as a feed store and was converted into sort of a shop house about 10 years ago from my understanding. About 2 weeks after moving in, the stuff started happening. My dogs would start barking like crazy about 11:30 at night. At first I thought maybe it was tweakers trying to break into stuff, as rural areas are known for, but never saw signs of anyone. About a week after this starts happening, I go out with a gun in case someone is breaking in, and I see nothing. But I stand there for about 5 minutes watching and listening, and I see nothing. All of a sudden, I see a shadow, or a black mass, walking past my vehicles. I head towards it, and it just vanishes, about 20 feet past my last car. I tell my wife, and she's kind of freaked out, but thinks maybe I was just seeing things. About a week later, she goes out with me. This time, she sees it standing by our mailbox. I didn't see it this time, but I go over to investigate, and nothing is there. And she said it vanished about 10 seconds after she saw it. A few days later, her and I are the only ones home, and we're watching Netflix in our bedroom, and we hear a huge crash, like someone kicked in the front door. I start looking around, and found a big shelf we had in the bathroom thrown down and slid across the floor 3 or 4 feet from where it was standing. There is only one way into the bathroom and no windows in it, so no way someone could have broke in. Then minutes later, some cans of soda fell off the counter in the kitchen. Her and I both saw them fall, and no one was near them. I'm going to put up a camera and see if I can catch anything, because every night around 11:30 my dogs bark at my mailbox where my wife saw the shadow. One night I decided to take some pictures in the area, and though I didn't see anything, my camera kept telling me there was one person in the shot. My daughter has also had some nightmares and told me she saw a black dog in her bed, and when she went to pat it, it ran through, not out, but through the front door. A few weeks ago, I woke up around 3 a.m. and had a piece of yarn wrapped around my neck 3 or 4 times. And no matter how much I roll at night, I don't think I could have wrapped it like that. I don't really feel like this is threatening. I just wanted to share what is going on. My wife is pretty freaked out because she has never experienced paranormal stuff, except for a few small things at our old house, but it was just stuff like seeing something dart across the room out the corner of your eye, not full human-sized shadows. Sorry for the long post. DM me if you want to discuss some more stuff that has happened, or if you want to know what area I am in case you have heard similar stories in the area. When I first read Washington, I was thinking this is definitely a Bigfoot story. But then things took a turn. I don't know if that area is prone to quakes, and I'm pretty sure our poster would have felt a quake. All I can say is, I think it might be time to find a new place to live. Did you guys enjoy this longer random assortment? Let me know in the comment section down below. Also, let me know which one was your favourite, and which one you'd like to hear more stories from. Thanks for listening. Thank you all for watching. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below, and don't forget to leave a like if you enjoyed this video. You can follow me on most social media and chat with me over at the Opinionated Outcast Discord server. If you really like what I do, consider supporting me on Patreon for as little as $2 a month, where there are rewards, sneak peeks, and other Patreon only exclusives. All links are in the description below. Thank you, and remember, it's always scarier when it's real. Good night.